Good morning, everybody. It's 7 o'clock here in the UK. You're very welcome to spend your breakfast with us right here at Sky News. Dare to dream. Could football be coming home? England certainly making all the right moves after last night's big win against Germany. We're live at Wembley and are talking to fans and former football stars throughout today's show to find out what their fortunes might hold as we head to Rome. Plus, we're talking COVID and coal power with the Climate Change Minister Anne-Marie Trevelyan shortly. And making new memories, we're joined by the England legend David Seaman to reflect on last night's big win, putting to bed a more painful experience back in 1996. John Barnes on the show as well. And as the search continues at a collapsed Miami apartment block, the letter from this April that reveals a warning to residents about concrete damage getting significantly worse and asking them to pay towards repairs. It's Wednesday, the 30th of June. The Italian job England to play Ukraine in the Euro 2020 quarterfinals in Rome at the weekend after their historic victory over Germany. Captain Kane says England is dangerous and their competitors better watch out as manager Southgate puts his memories of '96 to bed and looks to the future.
These players keep writing history and they've got the chance again.
Sterling is in that shot here. Through to the quarters, we battered Charlie. Happy days.
Furlough finish line, but still waiting to fully unlock. We're live in Blackpool to assess the impact on businesses as COVID support scheme prepares to wind up. Deadline day, claims of a backlog of more than 400,000 cases as time runs out for EU citizens to apply for the right to stay in the UK after Brexit. Bare necessities cubs cool off in California as a permanent emergency is declared in some other US states and Canada over a heatwave. And nowhere near as hot here, but a fine and mostly dry day. Will it last for the whole week? I'll have the details for you later. That was our cameraman waving to us from Blackpool. We'll be there very shortly. Before that, celebrations, tears of joy, and a dream that's now very much alive. England are heading to Rome for the quarterfinals of Euro 2020 on Saturday. They play Ukraine after beating Germany for the first time in 55 years at a major tournament. 2-0. The captain, Harry Kane, says other teams watching will see that they are dangerous. And the England manager, Gareth Southgate, can put his painful memories of 1996 to bed and says the side have the chance now to keep writing history. Just look at these images. How amazing is that? Across the country, the normal evening rush hour never happened as millions watched a nervous 90 minutes at Wembley.
They will have watched that match last night and definitely not be frightened of anybody who they might face next, and certainly not the Ukraine. What was interesting last night was Raheem Sterling after the match, very much a sense of we're making our own history here. We're not weighed down by the baggage of the past. And he just wasn't excited. He wasn't really getting carried away. It was almost like, what is all the fuss about? We know it was a tough match, but we're through it. It's just the round of 16. This is where we should be. So it is Ukraine next. Good news that Sterling got his third goal. Fantastic news that Harry Kane got his first goal and could kick on in these championships. But watching that match, Ukraine, Sweden, Andrei Shevchenko's Ukraine, he's taken them the furthest they've been. What is going to be dangerous about this next match is they have got nothing to lose. This is the best the Ukraine have ever done in a knockout competition, so they can play pretty freely. Pretty dull match last night, though, I have to say, and it was very much in the dying minutes of that match that they managed to put the thing to bed. Will England be frightened of them? No. Would they be frightened of a possible semi-final opponents, Denmark or the Czech Republic? No. It's on to Rome.
OK, fantastic. Meantime, we'll go to Bermondsey. Shaman's standing by for us there this morning. We've seen all the flags there behind you. It must have been absolute uproar there.
Yes, like many parts of the country, here everyone was celebrating that result last night, and it seems the entire estate has been in on it here, as it's hard to find a building that hasn't been covered with those England flags. And obviously all of the people on this estate will be hoping that England will be coming home, and those hopes are even more likely after yesterday's historic result. But obviously fans can't go to Rome, as the UK government are asking for people that have been in the UK for the past 14 days to self-isolate on arrival in Italy. So it's likely that fans here will be celebrating locally for Saturday.
OK, fantastic, ladies. Thank you both very much indeed. Let's bring in Anne-Marie Trevelyan, should we, Minister for Energy, Clean Growth and Climate Change. Hello to you. Good to talk to you this morning. Thanks for joining us. Italy next. What's the advice, the government advice, for fans who'd like to go and watch them play?
So the advice has been clearly set out, and as your correspondent said, honestly, it's very difficult not to smile just to see all those wonderful flags waving, isn't it? It just makes you so proud of our team doing so well last night. But really the ask is to watch from home and to cheer on the team as loud as you can. I think the challenge is, can they hear us from Rome? And I'm sure we'll take up that opportunity to be as supportive as we can of our amazing England team.
We certainly will. Can I ask you about COVID? There's a lot of stories in the newspapers this morning ahead of Terminus Day on the 19th of July, we all hope, fingers crossed. There has been talk from the government about learning to live with COVID. What does that actually mean to you?
So now that we are, at very nearly a kind of fully vaccinated adult population, a phenomenal effort, and we've all, in the same way that we cheered on our football team last night, to be honest, we're really cheering on all those who've been jabbing our arms to make sure that we have the vaccination. And once all adults have had that first jab, and we are very nearly at all the over 40s, it will mean that those most vulnerable to very ill health from COVID are protected. So making sure that then we can get our economy and our day-to-day lives back up to a normal pace of life again is the mission, and making sure, obviously, that our healthcare services are there for all the ailments that we and our families will still suffer from.
Yeah, and with that in mind, we've been hearing from Ian Duncan-Smith speaking in this morning's papers. He says there's no point in publishing the figures for COVID every day. We don't do it for pneumonia, we don't death figures, we don't do it for the flu. So why do we continue to do it for COVID? Isn't it time to stop doing that? All it does is cause alarm.
Well, I'm sure that when we are able to get to a point of being back to normal, the DHSE and Number 10 will take a decision on how we continue to make sure people are safe and be able to get back to their normal lives. And I'm sure in due course that will be the case.
Yeah, but should we continue to publish the figures, I suppose, is the question.
Well, I think for as long as there is, that intense testing regime that we will need to continue to do to be able to manage our day-to-day lives and make sure that we are looking after each other, there will be, that substantial data set to share, whether it's published, on the front page of a newspaper every day, or whether it's something that those who are monitoring and making sure that they're looking after us have at their fingertips will no doubt be set out by the Department of Health in due course.
To your brief, Mr. Trevelyan, UK's commitment on coal as part of our green credentials are certainly impressive. So why are we opening a new coal mine in Cumbria?
So the announcement today is that we have brought forwards by a year. We had set a 2025 moratorium on coal being used, unabated coal being used to generate electricity. We've brought that forward by a year to 2024 because we've been able to move to a much larger mix of renewables than I think, when that 2025 date was set, which is fantastic news. And I think, as you say, is a really a credit to the shift in our electricity generation. There is coal used, as you say, coking coal used in heavy intense industries like steel and others, where there is still a need because technology hasn't yet found an alternative solution. But that coal isn't burning for the purpose of electricity generation, and that's what our announcement today is about. But in terms of the question of whether the new coking coal mine would be opened in Cumbria. That's presently being reviewed through the planning system by MHCLG, and I think they're due to report on that by the end of the year.
But why do we need a new coking coal mine? Is it because it's in a constituency that the Conservatives won in 2017?
No, coking coal, as I say, will continue to need to be used for a number of years yet, though as part of the industrial decarbonisation strategy, which I published a couple of months ago, we have a big focus on helping those heavy energy industries to find new ways to do their business, including the steel industry, who are working very hard to look at a number of alternate technologies. But until that point, there will be a need for coking coal. So if we don't use UK sourced, it will have to be imported for the time being.
OK, furlough scheme, let me talk about that if I may. The UK airline industry has called on the Treasury to extend furlough sector workers until the end of April. I was speaking to an airline pilot just yesterday and he said if they came off furlough, many of he and his colleagues would be losing their jobs. What are we going to do about that?
So I know that both the aviation minister and the Treasury continue to work sector by sector and make sure that the right balance is found. And I have no doubt that those conversations are ongoing, but I don't have any more information, Kate, that I can offer you at this point.
OK, what can you tell us about the 5.2 million people who've applied for the settlement scheme? Tens of thousands have not got their application processed as yet. It's being described as potentially a new Windrush. What do you want to say about that?
So it's been a phenomenal scheme. My mother, who is French but has lived in the UK for most of her life, applied, and it was a very, very efficient, process for her to do. And it is a phenomenal effort that, as you say, 5.2 million people have applied and been through this process. And I am sure that there will be the ability to make sure that today the appropriate conversations are had, but it is an extraordinary effort and one that to the fact that sometimes government processes can be difficult. This one was a really effective and slick one for those 5.2 million people to be able to make sure that they have that.
You say that. But there's 300,000 backlog. 300,000 people are still waiting to be processed. Are we going to start denying them benefits?
So I imagine if they're in the system, that they will then be processed. So that will be I think that the deadline is today for applications and that's been announced. There's been a very long period for people to have time to apply, and that comes to an end today. But I have no doubt that if they're in the system and the processing is ongoing, that will follow its natural course.
Yeah, but does that mean that they will still receive benefits while they're being processed?
So you'd have to ask Thomas. I don't have the information on that, but I think the idea was always that this is a steady path, and that those who are, here and were applying for, the ability to stay will therefore be, in that process.
OK, let me ask you about Matt Hancock, if I may. Security experts say it would take 10 minutes to find out who leaked the CCTV video of Matt Hancock snogging with his lover, because the person would have left a digital footprint on the system. Why doesn't the government know already who did this?
So I'm not privy to any of the, I know, extensive security work that goes on, but I have no doubt that they will be doing all they can to ensure that they understand how the problem in terms of that camera in the Secretary of State's office came about and dealing with the outcomes accordingly.
OK, just a final thought, which I'm sure you will be able to comment on. Some suggestions, again in the papers this morning, that Mr Hancock is hoping to return to frontline politics before the end of the year. Would you welcome him back?
So the Prime Minister chooses his team, and he has brought forward a fantastic new Health Secretary in Sajid Javid, who brings an energy and a passion for looking after his constituents and indeed now all of us. And I'm very confident that he's going to do a great job now that he's taken up the post.
Yeah, that wasn't my question, though. My question was, whether you would be happy to welcome Matt Hancock back before the end of the year into frontline politics.
So the Prime Minister will make his decisions. I think Matt will
I'm asking you for your opinion, Mr Trevelyan. It is something that you could comment on, because I'm sure you know your own mind. Would you welcome him back?
So it's not for me to comment on who the Prime Minister wants to have in his cabinet, Kay, and I wouldn't dream of doing so. Matt worked unbelievably hard last year, doing almost gargantuanly impossible tasks to make sure that we got the health protections that we needed, and drove forward a phenomenal vaccine programme and testing programme through the course of a very, very hard year. But I think now he needs time to spend with his family and have a chance to get out of the limelight.
Maybe not with his family, who knows. It's good to talk to you. Thanks for joining us on the programme this morning. Thank you. Tamara is here. Hi, Tamara, thoughts?
Morning, Kay. I thought it was interesting what Anne-Marie Trevelyan said about the EU settlement scheme, because the deadline for that is tonight for all European citizens living in Britain. She said that her brother had applied and found it very easy. I think that's the point. The Home Office say over 5 million people have applied. All you need to do is get an app, prove your residency for 5 years, and there you go. But the problem is there are still people who have no idea that they need to apply, and even if it's only 1%, we're still talking tens or even hundreds of thousands of people who may, in 28 days from now, have their benefits cut off, find themselves unable to do their job or rent a flat. Children who have been born in the UK whose parents don't know that because they're not British citizens, they still need to apply on their behalf. So I think there's concern that the Home Office don't just cut these people off if they haven't applied by the deadline, because then campaigners are saying, look, as we go down the line, this could be another Windrush scandal where people are denied their rights because they just didn't have the right documentation or weren't aware of it.
She didn't say much about furlough, did she?
No, that is a big concern for businesses, as you were putting to her, that the support is tapering off from today, but it's not going to be until the 19th of July that for many industries will know if they're going to be viable this summer. And for travel and aviation and so on, they pretty much know it's not going to be a viable summer. And I think that's something that a lot of MPs are now lobbying the Treasury about.
OK, for now, Tamara, thanks very much. Thank you. Also this morning, as you were hearing there, government is preparing to reduce its contribution to the furlough job support scheme. Tamara touching on that as well, as we've not even fully eased restrictions yet. From tomorrow, the level of furlough payment the government contributes will reduce to 70%. This means employers must contribute 10% to furloughed employees' wages up to £312.50 a month. And from tomorrow, the stamp duty holiday will be phased out as well. Buyers will have to pay on purchases above £250,000. Sadia Chowdhury joins us now from Blackpool. Good morning to you, Sadia. What impact might it have there?
Well, good morning. Blackpool, as you know, is famous for tourism, holiday, leisure, all of these activities, and it has been one of the worst affected areas when it came to the furlough. In fact, data from around this time last year shows that South Blackpool had one of the highest rates of furlough, with over a third of its workforce sent home when businesses closed their doors. And we know, of course, because of lockdown, so many of these businesses haven't been able to open for around a year. And there are currently across the country 3.4 million people reported to still be on furlough. They're going to see those changes that you talked about, with employers having to pay a lot more. And what that means is if businesses aren't doing as well, then they risk having to lay off staff if they haven't been able to get enough money through this period to be able to pay their staff. So there is this feeling around here that, you know, until things fully reopen across the country, lots of more people will be affected.
OK, thank you. Thanks a lot. I love to see Blackpool Tower behind you there, Sadia. Thanks very much indeed for bringing that to us this morning. Reminds me of home. Now, do we dare to dream? Could football have a chance of finally coming home? And 25 years after it first reached the charts, Football's Coming Home was the song that fans sung loud last night. And the two men behind that song were at the stadium to watch the game as well. David Baddiel, of course, shared a picture of himself and Frank Skinner. There they are, cheering at Wembley, captioned, "It's, we all know the rest of the words." Absolutely fantastic. There's been plenty of reaction to last night's games across social media, as you would anticipate. The Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, posted a picture on Twitter of himself watching the game, writing, "Well done, England. We're all behind you. Bring it home." Meanwhile, the German ambassador, Andreas Michaelis, wrote, There you go. Congrats, England. It's coming home. There's a picture there of the elephant as well. He says, wishing you all the best in the tournament. We will have to, he went on to say, we will have to build a new team. This great competition between England and Germany will continue. The elephant had predicted that Germany would win. The England football team account tweeted a picture of their goalkeeper standing in the famous Wembley tumble, writing, Jordan Pickford. That is, or he was amazing last night. The England team's official photographer, Eddie Keogh, posted this picture saying, I can't tell you how happy I am to post this picture. I've had the privilege of being England's photographer for the last 4 years, but today feels even better than our wonderful time in Russia. This is proper rock and roll. It certainly is. And that story dominating, of course, the front pages this morning as well. Let's have a look. England's first knockout victory over Germany in 55 years is on the front of the Metro, with the paper proclaiming that the jinx is over. The Sun praises the sterling work of the footballer who scored the first goal, hailing the end of what's described as 55 years of hurt. By George, we did it, says the Daily Mail, declaring England erupts. The Daily Mirror says that it's time to dream now the Three Lions have broken the German hoodoo. For the Daily Star, the big news is that England didn't lose to Germany. Like emerging from a dream into a strange new light. That's not that catchy, is it? That's the headline in The Guardian. And, of course, I'm sure that you'll be staying with us throughout the course of the programme. John Barnes will be with us here on the show, as will David Seaman as well. And we'll also look ahead to England facing Ukraine in the quarterfinals of Euro 2020 on Saturday. We'll look ahead to that match and enjoy the victory over Germany with former England goalkeeper, as I said, David Seaman at 8:30. And can England fans get to Rome for Saturday's Euro 2020 quarter-final against Ukraine? We'll ask the Italian Tourist Board when we speak with them at 9:30. Packed show, mostly talking football today, of course. First time in 55 years that we've beaten Germany in a knockout competition. Last time was 1966. My goodness. Meantime, other stories making news for you this morning. It's been revealed residents of a Florida apartment building that collapsed last week had been sent a letter in April warning them of serious structural damage. The letter, obtained by US media, was sent by the president of the Apartment Blocks Building Association, saying that problems originally identified in 2018 would cost more than $16 million to fix. Meanwhile, the search for survivors goes on. At least 12 people now known to have died in the collapse, and officials say 149 people are still missing. Officials have warned the operation will take some time.
So we're getting all kinds of information from all these different sources, and sometimes we only get a name or an apartment number. Sometimes we don't have both. So we're sifting through all of this information to determine which of these reports are in fact new and which are duplicates. And this is a slow and methodical process. So we ask you to be patient as we continue this audit.
3 in 5 young people say they've received no support from their school regards to their mental health. A study by the charity Mind found nearly half of the students said they had been disciplined at school for behaviour relating to a mental health issue. And there was a big shock on day 2 of Wimbledon as injury forced Serena Williams out of the tournament. She was attempting to win a record equalling 24th Grand Slam title, but was forced to retire in her first round match. As more of us go back to work, your morning commute might be changing sooner than you think. A Slovakian firm says it's completed a half-hour test flight in their flying car. The air car, as it's known, claims to transform in under 3 minutes with just the press of a button. It comes just a day after the head of Hyundai in Europe said he thought that flying cars could be used to cut congestion and emissions by 2030. Didn't we see a flying car as early as Chitty Chitty Bang Bang? You have to be that age, I suppose. Let's find out what's happening as far as the weather's concerned. The sun's shining on everybody in England today, Naz, isn't it?
Yes, sort of. In terms of what it's actually looking like meteorologically, currently it is actually quite dull across eastern areas, but it should be brightening up for most places this afternoon.
Look forward to brighter skies. The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.
Good morning. For the vast majority of the UK and Ireland, we are looking at largely fine and dry conditions for today, with some good spells of sunshine slowly but surely developing. This morning, though, a bit of a dull start to the day, really. Across parts of Northern Ireland, northern and eastern parts of Britain as well, it's a cloudy, dull start to the day. There's some drizzle around eastern coasts and hills and more persistent rain across some parts of eastern England. But it should slowly but surely brighten up across these areas, along with many western areas where we'll continue with the sunshine from this morning into this afternoon as well. So eventually, most places will see some good spells of sunshine developing later. But around eastern coastal counties, I think, along with that northerly breeze, but also some of that cloud still clinging on, it's going to feel cooler, and that's going to be reflected in the temperatures, only 16 or 17 around eastern coast, up to around 24 degrees Celsius locally across parts of the west, but a few showers can't be ruled out, mainly across southern Ireland, the south of Wales and southwest England.
The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.
Record temperatures continuing to hit Western Canada and the United States. And for many animals, it's a struggle to keep cool. This adult black bear decided drastic action was needed to help her and her cubs. So what did she do? She took them to South Lake Tahoe Beach on Sunday afternoon, despite a crowd of, and a goose, a crowd of onlookers. There you go, everybody chilling out. The governor of Washington has described the current heatwave in the Western United States and Canada as a permanent emergency. And on the more serious side, 70 people are reported to have been killed, mostly those that have underlying health conditions or are elderly. We'll keep an eye on that for you. The agony and the ecstasy. We'll talk to England and Germany supporters after that memorable match at Wembley coming up.
Going on. I'm Alex Crawford and I'm Sky's special correspondent based in Istanbul.
This is what makes the job so fantastic.
Hello, my name is Nadia Frontier.
My name is Ryan Matthews. I'm the Marine Assistant at Rotherham Research Station,
which is to the west of the West Antarctic Peninsula. So far I've been here for 5 months and it is an absolutely wonderful experience.
is Fatma Zilzila, the founder of Ikisa from Kuwait, where we face many environmental problems related to waste pollution, deforestation, and lack of information. We are collecting recyclables from houses, schools, and businesses in order to recycle them. In exchange of your recyclables, you get a treat.
Hello again, everybody. My goodness me, what a night it was last night. England beat Germany, the old foe, for the first time in a knockout competition since 1966 by 2-0. That's how they celebrated. And he finally broke his duck in this competition. Harry Kane, of course. Sterling's just walk in the park for him, isn't it? Let's catch up with two fans who lived through the dramatic 90 minutes of last night's England-Germany game. We chatted to them yesterday. They very kindly agreed to come back today. Gertz Werner is there. He is, of course, the German fan who was monitoring events for us from his side. And Billy is with us as well, who was with us yesterday as well. I know how you feel, Billy, so I want to go with Gertz. First of all, tell us what it was like as a German fan.
To be honest, I thought the first 75 minutes of the match were probably one of the worst I've ever seen in my life. And it was just awful football, really, wasn't it? It was boring. And as I said, I watched it with some German and English mates, and we were pretty shocked how poor both of them were. And then at the end of the day, England scored the goals in fair play. They won. Congratulations to that.
We're looking at fans, actually, as German fans, as we're chatting to you, Gertz. They were absolutely devastated. You must have gone into this game, given that we haven't beaten you, England, I should say, haven't beaten Germany in a knockout competition since 1966. There must have been part of you yesterday morning when we were chatting thinking, this is a cakewalk for us.
No, as I said yesterday, I always thought it's going to be quite close. And that's what it was for 75 minutes. But then again, yeah, England, did manage to score the goals. And in all honesty, I think personally, it really sums up the last few years of Jogi Löw. Germany has been pretty poor since the last World Cup, really. And you can't take it away from him. He won us a World Cup. But as they say in England, good riddance. Good that he goes now and they can start a new chapter. And you know what? Again, as I said yesterday, I'm also happy for England. And I hope my second team now goes all the way and brings it home, huh?
Fantastic. Billy, you were tweeting in the early hours of this morning. How's the head? Have you had any sleep?
Right. I don't normally sleep actually after games like that, but I managed to get a couple of hours sleep actually. We were in a bar very close to the stadium till the early hours of the morning. They just kept shipping the beers in, so me and my posse, puns and soups and all that lot, we were all there till very early in the morning. It was a good celebration, shall we say, and we know how to celebrate. It's got to be said. But
yep,
what a win. Tell you
looking at celebrations as we're chatting, Billy. Who were the star players for you?
Listen, I love Sterling. I think he's, I just think he's brilliant, And I think also Jack Grealish, when he came on, he actually kind of took it up another level. I know a lot of people are sort of saying, Jack Grealish, don't drop him, make sure that, he's playing all the time. Listen, I think we've got to trust the coaches, trust Southgate. I heard Gertz, what he was saying about terrible game for the first 75 minutes, but I slightly disagree with that because, as I said, we have lost to Germany so many times. We lose all these matches. We get to the World Cup semi-final. We lose to Croatia because we don't switch it up in the second half. And I think Southgate's learned from that. And I think that we actually went into this game to play a particular side. We didn't want to let Germany score. We just did what we had to do. And then we just took it up a level in the final, 15 minutes or so? And when we took it up a level, Germany just didn't know what to do. We went bang, bang, goal in the back of the net. See you later. So, and we're in the next round. And that's what you've got to do. You've got to remember, we haven't let in one goal. Okay, and if you don't let in a goal, you're not going to lose a game. You might lose on penalties, but you're not going to lose the game. And I'm very happy with that. After, like I said, 40 plus years of seeing England not doing anything. Listen, let's just edge our way to the semi-finals. And I'm saying that touching wood all over the place.
Yeah, no need to show off. Just don't let any goals in. Gertz is what Billy is saying. And all due respect to the England goalkeeper, he was magnificent yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, England, again, as I said, if you score the goals at the end, then you're fair and deserved winner. And that's what England did. And I really do hope that they can kind of take this historic victory and write another bit of history and finally win a title. I mean, as I said, I've lived here 26 years and I really, really hope they can go all the way now. And it looks good, at least now, you know, Ukraine is a beatable team. And then, you know, we're closer already a step. So all the best to England.
OK, Billy, you were at Wembley, I think, yesterday, weren't you?
Yes.
I think we've got pictures of you actually at Wembley yesterday. Rather, and that was, I'm guessing, before the game, was it? Because you looked pretty calm, pretty relaxed. And that was obviously when we saw 1 or 2 goals going in, lots of celebrations around you. What was it like being at Wembley?
It was great. I tell you something, and I've said to you, I've been to all the matches so far, and the 3 previous matches, you go there, you get your ticket, you stand up there, there's a bit of clapping, a bit of cheering, you know, but it's almost like a little bit of a sort of kind of friendly plus. I probably think it's the best way to describe it, you know, which is a little bit annoying because FIFA have charged us all sorts of ridiculous money to try and, you know, to go to the previous matches, and it's been a bit frustrating for England fans as well, because, you know, we've been shelling out a lot of money and it's not quite been the same. But this game, we turned around to all my mates, you know, Dave was there, you know, we had the, you know, Leeds come down from Sheffield as well, Regina and Mark as well, Soups, and we turned around and we said, this is the first time it actually feels like an away day. Like when you go away, you feel the tournament vibe. Everyone in that stadium was really, really up for it. I was really, really pleased. I was able to bring my son, Elias, and my daughter, Bella, as well, who goes to all football matches with me all over with Brentford, everywhere, like, you know. And she came down. It's her first European Championships. And the previous one, she's like, oh, it's not that good, is it? You know, it's all right. But this one, she actually felt the vibe behind the goal, the singing, the dancing, people falling on top of you when we scored, the full Monty. It was absolutely fantastic. And obviously there was the songs that we were singing, you know, obviously 3 Lions was a massive song for that one, but Sweet Caroline, I don't know if you got that on the TV beforehand, before the match and afterwards, when everyone, the teams are off and everything like that, Sweet Caroline, everyone in the stadium singing that over and over again for, like, you know, stay in the stadium for about 45 minutes afterwards, which is what you do when you go to tournaments. After the game, you stay in the stadium for about an hour, hour and a half, singing and dancing and just chatting to your mates. And that vibe was wicked. And it's a real shame because I've got tickets to Rome for Saturday. I was going to go with my daughter Bella for that one as well. We had that all sorted out. But unfortunately, due to restrictions, I've had to park that one. I'm going to have to go back to my Scandinavian bar in town and watch the game there with the mates instead, because unfortunately can't make it to Rome. It's a real shame.
You'll be able to watch the last 2 games at Wembley, won't you, when England play in the semis and the final? Good. Absolutely.
Hey, what are you doing there? You doing now? You got that? No, please.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I take all of that back. We can rewind that. Gertz, what do you think about suggestions, before I let you both go? Italians are saying, you know what, the final and the semi-final should be played in Rome, not at Wembley.
No, they should play it here as planned. And as I said again, I'm now all the way for England, so play it at Wembley and bring it home. That's all I can say.
Fantastic. It's good to talk to both of you guys. I hope you enjoyed the game, whichever side you were on come the final whistle. And thanks for taking the time to join us this morning. Thank you.
Fair play, Gertz, to you as well, mate. Nice one, mate.
Take care, mate. Bye. Bearing that in mind, we were actually speaking to the government minister about Rome earlier on today, and she was underlining that fans can't go because I think I'm right in saying, Tamara, that you have to isolate for 5 days.
That's right. The rules in Italy are that people coming from Britain have to quarantine for 5 days. So that is too late if you're thinking of travelling now. But for Brits who are already in Italy and have already done their quarantine, or for the British expats who live in Italy, they will get most of the tickets, which I think are being put out through the embassy over there. But the FA are not selling tickets here because of those rules. And the government minister said the advice is watch it at home and cheer as loud as you can.
Yeah, and just a quick thought on that. She did say that she hoped that the fans would make so much noise here that
they could be heard in Italy. Yes, good luck with that.
But she was also talking to us about the settlement scheme. Now,
That's right. The deadline for the EU settlement scheme is tonight at midnight. That's for all European citizens living in the UK. This is the post-Brexit, end of free movement scheme for people to continue to live and work and claim benefits here. Now, there have been over 5 million applications processed, people who've done it and had their settled status already. But the concern is that there is a backlog of 400,000 still being processed. The Home Office says that if you've already applied by the deadline, then you won't lose out because they'll get to you eventually, but it may take a while. And there's also concern from campaigners that there are people who, despite knowing that this scheme has been there for over a year now, don't know they need to apply because maybe they're an older person who's lived here for most of their life, people who've got children born in the UK and they don't realise that those children aren't automatically entitled to stay here. And what these campaigners are saying to the Home Office is don't be too heavy-handed, cut people's benefits, put them at risk of deportation because there are people, it may be only a small percentage, but there are possibly tens of thousands of people who have not applied yet and there's concern that they may lose out.
OK, this is what she said.
It is an extraordinary effort and one that, to the fact that sometimes, government processes can be difficult. This one was a really effective and slick one for those 5.2 million people to be able to make sure that they have that,
You say that. But there's 300,000 backlog. 300,000 people are still waiting to be processed. Are we going to start denying them benefits?
So I imagine if they're in the system, that they will then be processed. So that, will be I think that the deadline is today for applications and that's been announced, there's been a very long period for people to have time to apply and that comes to an end today. But I have no doubt that if they're in the system and the processing is ongoing, that will follow its natural course.
So I think the point is that not everyone will find it easy. Also, of course, British people living in Europe, in many countries, including France, also need to apply for residency by today. Some countries have given it automatically, like Spain and Portugal, but not all of them. And there's concern that British people living in Europe have not applied. There are over 1 million British people living in Europe who need to do that.
OK, for now, thanks a lot, Tamara. Thank you. In other news, the Ugandan High Commissioner to the UK joining us shortly as his country battles a new wave of coronavirus. That to come.
The Tigrayan forces have taken control of Mekelle, which is the regional capital of the Tigray region. The situation for the rest of the Tigray region still remains pretty much unknown. And I suspect that in the next couple of days, we will have a better sense of what is going on in the whole region. That report that mentioned 5.5 million people in desperate need of support, we believe is only a tip of the iceberg. And people have needed help desperately so for the past 8 months now. And we as UNICEF, within our mandate, we have been providing water and sanitation, critical health support. And as you know, most of the infrastructure in the region was damaged because of the conflict. We're also ensuring that children that suffer from severe acute malnutrition are treated. And we estimate that by December this year, about 56,000 children will need treatment for severe acute malnutrition. And that's about 6 times than we normally have every single year. The world at the moment is facing many crises of different nature. And we as humanitarian agencies, the UN and our NGO partners have done our best to bring to the world's attention a severe crisis that has happened in the Tigray region and will continue to happen, I must say, at least for the foreseeable future.
I'm Adam Parsons. I'm Sky's Europe correspondent based here in Brussels. Cobblers have been pulled up out and are being used as missiles to hurl at these police. Made by people who dare to challenge. Nice to see you again, Mr. Barnier. Why? Not meeting you. Fishing does have the potential to stymie an enormous economic deal. We take you to the heart of stories that shape our world. What strikes you when you come to this glacier is not just the way in which the environment is changing, but the speed at which those changes are happening.
Dan usaha saya menggarap lahan hutan.
Did you know symptoms of hay fever can develop at any stage of life, not just in childhood? The Pollen Reports, sponsored by Philips Connected Air Purifiers.
The vast majority of the UK and Ireland will be mainly dry and sunny today, although it'll be cloudy at first in the east with drizzle along eastern coasts, as well as some more widespread rain over eastern England. But this afternoon, the east should mostly see sunny spells developing, along with the rest of Britain, Ireland and Northern Ireland. Pollen levels will be high for most places, but very high for Western England. However, levels will be moderate across Wales and the Northern Isles of Scotland. We are currently in the peak of the grass pollen season and fungal spores are at a medium risk. There is also plenty of weed pollen about, mainly nettle.
The Pollen Reports, sponsored by Philips Connected Air Purifiers.
Indeed so. And for you hay fever sufferers everywhere, I hear you, I hear you. It's nearly over. Now, from today, the government is relaxing some of the COVID travel restrictions, but only for a handful of places. Here we go. Spain's Balearic Islands, Madeira and Malta have been added to the UK's green travel list, which means that a negative COVID-19 test is required before and after travelling. But Spain's government has now said that Britons arriving in Mallorca, Ibiza and other Balearic Islands will have to present a negative test result on arrival or prove that they are fully vaccinated. From today, the Portuguese island of Madeira has moved to the green list for those entering England. So only a negative test from England, I should say. So only a negative test is needed. And that's the same for Malta now, which is also on the UK's green list. But Malta's government is only allowing double vaccinated Brits into the country. You have to be fully vaccinated. The other end of the scale, Uganda has moved onto the UK's red list after the country saw a significant rise in coronavirus cases. To talk about that in more detail, Uganda's High Commissioner to the UK and Ireland, His Excellency Julius Peter Moto, is with us now. Your Excellency, thank you for joining us on the programme this morning. Tell me your thoughts about Uganda being added to the red list.
Good morning, Kay, and good morning to all our listeners. Government of Uganda received a notification that we shall be put on a red list of countries due to coronavirus, effective tonight. This was announced and we received official communication. I convey my deepest condolences to everyone in the UK who have lost dear ones. As you know, this COVID-19 has caused a lot of pain and a lot of people have died. Our sympathies are with the families that have suffered. Recently, Uganda experienced deep rise in COVID-19 cases attributed to a variant called Delta variant. Listeners would note that by the end of the year 2020, there were 35,000 cumulative cases of COVID in Uganda. As of close of business yesterday, they were close to 77,000. And by middle of March, the graph actually had flattened. There were no deaths attributed to COVID-19. Actually, for a period of 2 weeks, there were no deaths. Uganda had won the war against COVID-19. However, rising from middle of May up to yesterday, the total number of cases had been 1,735 recorded. This has been quite high. The cumulative cases to date is 79,000 persons. Total recoveries, 52,000 persons. Active cases in our health facilities, about 1,180 persons. And the total deaths recorded since March 2020 had been 989 persons. So you see, it's a big problem. We had addressed the problem, but from mid-May, the cases started rising again. However, the government of Uganda has put in place measures. Government of Uganda locked down the country on the 19th of June, and it's going to last for 42 days. We stopped public transportation. Schools were closed. Mass gatherings were prohibited. and passengers coming from high-risk countries were restricted to enter Uganda. Government of Uganda had continued to undertake vaccination. To date, almost 1 million people have been vaccinated, and about 1.4 million people have been tested. So the implication for this lockdown on our bilateral relationship, it's regrettable, and we believe it's a temporary measure, although free travels between Uganda and UK is going to be affected. Businesses will be affected, including trade and tourism. Right now, it's only the UK nationals that can travel freely from Uganda to UK, those with resident status, including diplomats and students with a student's visa. Uganda will still allow the UK nationals and travelers from the UK to enter Uganda, provided they present negative PCR COVID-19 tests, test to fly certificate, taken within 72 hours before flight.
Okay.
We are confident that these measures, once we have addressed all our problems, we are going to leave the country and we will be put back to green or amber list very soon.
Okay. Your Excellency, thank you for taking the time to explain that to our viewers this morning. I'm sure they appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Uganda going on to the red list as some of the Balearic Islands and indeed Madeira and Malta go onto the green list. Have a quick look at what happened last night, as if you needed to be reminded. They went mad down in South London when England scored that goal. That's what happened. There we go. Absolutely amazing. Scored twice, of course, didn't we? Sun shining on us today. Let's hope so. Here is Naz. Naz, good morning.
Yep, there will be some sunshine eventually this afternoon. Bit of a dull start this morning for some, though.
Look forward to brighter skies. The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.
Good morning. Eventually, most of the UK and Ireland will see sunshine for this afternoon after a rather dull start around some northern and eastern areas this morning where it's rather cloudy. There's patchy light rain and drizzle. Also, some more persistent rain around eastern parts of England. But eventually, as I said, it brightens up. Eastern coastal areas staying cool but warm in the west.
The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.